It's 80s night on The Masked Singer. We've got 3 brand new contestants singing their hearts out to hopefully live another week here on the show. Let's talk The Masked Singer. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my recap and reaction video for The Masked Singer. We are in season 9 now. It is 80s night, something certainly after my own heart. I was born in the late 70s, so grew up in the 80s in that fabulous, fabulous decade. So we've got the doll, the Scorpio, and the moose all singing for the very first time tonight, and one of them will move on to next week's episode where they will face 2 new competitors. And, well, if the panel rings the ding-dong keep it on bell, which they've added this season, I guess potentially 2 could move on, but one will move on to next week to face the 2 new challengers, and the one that they save with the stupid bell will move on to a different sort of week where all of the people who were saved are going to face off against each other, and then one of those will move forward. So anyway, but I don't know if that's happening yet. I have not gotten to that portion of the episode. I'm just as far as what my first reaction will be, who is unmasked first. But anyway, before we even get to all of that, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. We've got the Masked Singer videos every single week here on the channel. Please consider subscribing down below, and check out some of the other stuff on my channel, because I do a lot of TV and movie reviews. It's not all about the Masked Singer here, although that is certainly one of the most fun parts of my channel, because I get to communicate with you guys in the comments. And speaking of which, you guys definitely steered me in a different direction than I was thinking for the macaw, which we will next see in, I believe, the quarterfinals. I was thinking, we just saw him for the first time last week, so we only had 1 week of clues. I was thinking Elijah Wood, and Robin was thinking the same thing, so I was not on my own there, but no, you guys made it clear in the comments that this is in fact American Idol superstar David Archuleta, who I had forgotten about his existence, but I used to be an avid watcher of American Idol, and the season that he was on, he came in second to David Cook. I watched every episode of that. I called in the number, and I liked David Archuleta. I did, but he's one of these people that we just didn't really hear from that much after the fact. But I'm with you. All the clues do seem to match up for that. So I'm going to go officially on the record here and say David Archuleta is going to be under that macaw mask. But all right, so let's start with the doll, who we saw first on the show after Young MC sang us in with Bust a Move, classic from the 80s. So, all right, the doll said that 80s night makes me feel right at home. Growing up, life was surreal and rocky. I was a weirdo. No one wanted to hear my voice. Forget about it, he said. There's a dollhouse full of animals at that point. He said, I started a crew with the other misfit dolls. And then we hear that sort of like a doll, like where you pull the string and it says, let's be friends. We saw a saxophone as well. He said, the man came in and said we was too strange and tried to harsh us out. What does that say? I can't read my writing. I just scribble. They go so quickly in the clue packages. Something. Tried to break us out. That's what he said. Tried to break us out, but they didn't know who they was dealing with. We saw a playbill at that point for something that says guys as dolls. And then he said, we marched step by step into their playground. We saw a red flag waving at that point, and he says, for those who were told they were expendable, this one's for you. We see a bunch of Hairspray at that point. And the song was Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds, one of my all-time favorite tunes from the movie The Breakfast Club. And the guesses from the panel were pretty interesting. Before we get to those, though, we had Eric Estrada come out and give us the post-song clue. Eric Estrada, of course, I have guessed before on this show, and I was wrong. I forget who it ended up being, but I wasn't even close. But the word ghostwriter came up with this clue, and the doll says, my movie career is scary, but it's my work with a Grammy award-winning artist that still blows me away. All right, so the guesses from the panel include Gene Simmons from Kiss, Vince Neil, or perhaps someone else from Motley Crue, Tommy Lee maybe, Donnie Wahlberg from Ken, which was not only such a stupid guess and also wrong, but wrong proven on the spot because Jenny's husband, Donnie, was in the audience at the time, so that was very silly. And then Sebastian Bach came to us from Nicole. I think that's potentially the best guess because we had many clues there about somebody in hair metal. Sebastian Bach has had some acting roles as well. He actually was on Gilmore Girls for like half a season in their rock band. The Broadway stuff makes sense. But I'm going to go a slightly different route. And we don't know yet if the doll is leaving, but I think Sebastian Bach is actually a very good guess, and I think Vince Neil is a good guess as well. But okay, this is a little bit out there, but the Forget About It makes me think of New York, and this is a little bit maybe on the nose because the character is a doll, but there is a singer from the New York Dolls, which was a punk band in the late 70s and early 80s. But you may know the lead singer David Johansen better as Buster Poindexter, who had a huge hit in the 80s with the song Hot, Hot, Hot. But also, he says, with Ghostwriter, he says, my movie career is scary. He played the ghost of Christmas Past, I believe it was, in the movie Scrooged. So I don't know. Guys as Dolls kind of got me thinking along those lines, especially because the New York Dolls were part of that glam scene. So they did all dress up as, they were doing the glam thing. So I don't know. This is sort of out there. I like the Sebastian Bach guess. That could be right. But I'm going to say this could be David Johansen, a.k.a. Buster Poindexter. All right, up next is the Scorpio. And she says, nothing I love more than being being over the top. And that was Over the Top, of course, was an 80s movie. And then we see Claw Street, which is like Wall Street, sort of in the same font. She said, growing up as a small town girl in the middle of nowhere, I was built for bigger things. We see a bunch of sports balls at that point. I hustled working in fast food and bars, and then we see a crumpled up dollar bill. She said I would do anything to buy my way out of the sticks and move closer to my destiny. I made my way west and clawed my way into the industry. We see on the wall there was a poster that says Party of a Lifetime. The key to my fame was to just be myself, even if that makes me the villain sometimes. We see a tailor at that point, like a clothing tailor. And she says she's fine if the gossip says I'm a wild thing. You'd actually be surprised at how charming and persuasive I can be. And then she sings Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Not too well, in my opinion, but the Young MC clue, Young MC came back out and gave us a clue for this, and it was a dance clue. It was the sprinkler. That old, I'm not going to do it for you, but, the old thing that looks like a lawn sprinkler. And she said, I'm never the one doing it, but watering your property is important. Don't really know what that means. All right. So the guesses from the panel included Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City, but also because there was sort of a mannequin motif in the clue package, and so Robin was thinking the movie Mannequin, but he said he didn't really hear it in the voice. So he was thinking maybe somebody from a reality show. We saw like a picture of a setting sun, so he was thinking either Selling Sunset or one of the Housewives, because it was sort of like a homemaker type package. And Jenny kind of took that ball and ran with it. She thought it could be Lisa Rinna or Denise Richards or Erica Jane from the Housewives show. And then Heidi Klum was mentioned by Ken. It is not his worst guess, far from it, but I would say it's still not a good guess. Not really loving that. I was actually thinking along the lines of Denise Richards. In fact, I didn't realize that she was on The Real Housewives for a couple of seasons. I don't remember which one. But Jenny had sort of pointed that out. And I was thinking her, based on her talking about wild things, she said the word, I'm a wild thing. Okay, and I listened to the voice. I'm like, okay, is it Nev Campbell? There were a couple of different people in that show, or in that movie. And then she also said, you'd be surprised at how charming and persuasive I could be. So then I was thinking, okay, maybe it's somebody from Charmed, maybe Holly Marie Combs, something like that. But the thing that got me with Denise Richards, and I did not look this up, maybe I should have, but I believe she was the female lead in the movie Basketball, which was Trey Parker and Matt Stone from the South Park show sort of created this movie, and I think she was the female lead in it. But the point of it was basketball mixed with baseball. I never saw the movie, but I think that was sort of the gist. And we saw different sports balls in sort of the office cubicle or whatever that she was in. And so it wasn't just one sport that I was sort of thinking about, but various sports balls we saw, and that sort of reminded me of basketball. So I'm going to go with Denise Richards. I didn't even know she was a Real Housewife. But I think a lot of these clues do match up, and I can't imagine she sings all that well, so I think that sort of adds into it as well. There was nothing about Friends on there. She did a one episode stint on Friends, but also nothing about Charlie Sheen. That's obviously a very famous part of her life. But in any event, I think that could be Denise Richards. All right, and finally we have the Moose, and the Moose one is the first voted off. So we'll get to see who this is actually right after my guess here. But this was for the clue package, a sitcom theme kind of package, and he actually sang the theme song. So we really got to hear him sing twice, because he sang in the clue package and then again for the tune. But he said he was born in the Midwest, just a normal guy, moved to the city where he met the wife, moved out west, and then we see at that point To Santa from Moose. And then Moose on the Loose was the name of the sitcom that they did. He was wearing a Letterman's jacket at some point. He said, I joined some teams you might know, ended up as the king of your favorite show. And then we saw some Chicago dogs at that point. There was sort of a whole bar stool and beer kind of motif. And then at the end, he said, L'Chaim. The song he did was The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News. Obviously, an 80s staple with Back to the Future and everything. Were these all movie songs? Because Don't You Forget About Me was too. I guess Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I think that was a movie, but I don't know if that had anything to do with the Cyndi Lauper song. But anyway, Charlene Tilton from Dallas came out and gave the clue here. And it says acceptance speech. He said, I haven't had much use for these, but there may be a few in the trunk of my car or an old suit. All right, so the guesses from the panel. Robin thought this could be John Lovitz. Jenny was thinking it could be someone from Cheers, like a George Wendt or a John Ratzenberger. Robin sort of went through the Cheers people as well, but Kelsey Grammer, we would recognize the voice because he has sang in many things, including The Simpsons, but he sang the theme song to Frasier. And then John Goodman is who Ken was thinking, his co-star from The Hangover 3. And Ed O'Neill was on Nicole's radar, of course, Al Bundy from Married with Children, but also Modern Family. So when he says, join some teams, plural, you might know. A lot of these other people are maybe more, like John Lovitz, SNL was, the team. But he was in A League of Their Own as well, which is about a team. And Ed O'Neill, the thing that stuck out to me, I should say, with him is the Letterman's jacket, because Al Bundy famously played high school football, Polk High. It was a big running gag throughout the entire series. So that definitely stuck out to me. But after Kirstie Alley passed away, I went back and I have been watching my favorite show as a kid, which is Cheers. And so definitely, I was thinking along the George Wendt kind of lines, because I was thinking, the voice, I was trying to match it. It definitely is not Kelsey Grammer. It's not John Ratzenberger. We would know him from all of his Pixar voice work. And everybody else, I feel like maybe is a little too famous. Like, I don't see Ted Danson doing this show. Certainly Woody Harrelson, same. And so Jenny pointed out the Chicago hot dogs, and also that L'Chaim means cheers. In fact, when I first heard L'Chaim at the end of the clue package, I thought, okay, this is somebody Jewish. I thought maybe it was Gabe Kaplan from Welcome Back, Kotter, because I've also been going through that show lately, just because, nobody died or anything like Kirstie Alley. I never really watched it all the way through, so I've been going through that. But I didn't quite hear the voice there either, and I think more clues match up to George Wendt. So I'm going to go with Jenny. And not only were these the initial guesses from the panel, but they were the final guesses too. Robin, John Lovitz, Ken, John Goodman, Nicole, Ed O'Neill, and Jenny with George Wendt. So I'm going to go with Jenny on this. I think this could potentially be George Wendt under that mask. Very famously from Chicago. So let's see here. Oh, wow. It's George Wendt. Wow, he's been nominated 6 times. Cheers, hold on, let me pause there. Cheers is one of these shows where almost everyone that was a main player on that show won an Emmy over the years. Kirstie Alley certainly did. Ted Danson was nominated every year that it was on the air. I think he only won once, but he did win. B.B. Newirth won a few times. Kelsey Grammer won. Woody Harrelson. I'm not sure if Shelley Long won, actually, but probably. And my cat agrees. Yeah, George Wendt, I guess, never won. I didn't realize that. But it's interesting, seeing him now, 40 years after the fact on Cheers, since I've been going through that show. But he's great. I've always loved George Wendt. And by the way, fun fact, he is Jason Sudeikis' uncle, I think is what it is. I would have to look that up. But something like Jason Sudeikis married into the family or something. So there's some kind of relation there. So.
Well, I thought maybe I'd win.
He said he thought he would win. God bless him. He was fun, actually. He was a lot of fun. I actually would have voted out the gal, the Scorpio, personally, but whatever. Let's hear final words from George Wendt here.
Profoundly ridiculous.
He said it's very ridiculous. Profoundly ridiculous. All right. So I will figure out now who, obviously the Doll and Scorpio are going to go head-to-head in the Battle Royale. We're going to figure out who gets voted off from there. Well, the Doll is moving forward to next week, and he will face 2 new competitors on the road to the quarterfinals. We'll see if he can last all 3 weeks in this sort of portion of the season before he gets to the quarterfinal. But even if he gets voted out, he could be saved at some point with the Ding Dong Keep It On bell. But they did, for the Battle Royale, Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran, one of my all-time favorite bands. And listening to the voice secured it for me. I am very confident. This is David Johansen, a.k.a. Buster Poindexter, as the Doll. If it turns out to be him, I'm pretty proud of that guess because nobody on the panel said it. That came from my noodle. But I think the whole idea of, somebody from the group, the New York Dolls, being the Doll, and it just makes sense to me that Johansen would do something like this when, in this country, being a drag performer is, a huge hot button issue for some reason, and even being, made illegal in certain places. New York Dolls was one of the original glam rock groups. They all wore dresses in the late 70s. And so I think it makes sense that the male dressed as the Doll on The Masked Singer is David Johansen. So that is my guess. I'm sticking with it. But we must unmask the Scorpio. And the guesses from the panel. Jenny is sticking with the Denise Richards clue. Robin is picking up what she's laying down about the Housewives, but going with the different one, Lisa Rinna. and he was thinking the sunrise and sunset photos may be for her starring turn on Days of Our Lives back in the day. Ken went with Heidi Klum, which he said originally, and Nicole, we hadn't heard this guess before. Nicole didn't really speak much in the first part, but she was thinking this could be Willa Ford, who she said is an interior designer. I know her as as a singer, not even an actress, but she sings this song called "I Want to Be Bad." That was like her big pop hit 20 years ago. But that would explain sort of the thing in the clue package about I'm going to be, even when I'm the villain, whatever, I want to be bad. But no, the multiple sports balls made it clear for me. Not only did she say wild things in the clue package as well, and apparently she's a Real Housewife, but the basketball clue for me cemented the deal. I think this is Denise Richards. Jenny was right about George Wendt, so she could be right on this one too. Denise Richards, 2 in a row for Jenny would be big. Let's see. I do think it's Denise Richards. Oh, okay. Someone I've never heard of. It's Christine Quinn. All right, well, all right, let me pause it for a second. Robin, at least, was right earlier in the episode because he said about Selling Sunset. He was getting real Selling Sunset vibes. I wouldn't have known anybody from that show, though, if you punched me in the face about it. All right, so I've never heard of Christine Quinn, so I'm okay with taking that loss. I really thought it was going to be Denise Richards. Oh, he said Nicole was the closest one. So is Willa Ford on Selling Sunset? All right. Wow. All right. Well, Robin did say Selling Sunset. All right. Well, I don't know who Christine Quinn is, so I never would have gotten that if you gave me a million guesses. Maybe I would have strung those two names together at some point, but I've never heard of that person. So, all right. Well, I'll take the loss of that because I do think the doll is Buster Poindexter, David Johansen. I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think of that guess? And were you surprised about who was under these masks? Christine Quinn, did you nail it? I've never heard of her, but hey, I got George Wendt right, so I am 9 for 11 on that, and now I'll be 9 for 12 on the Christine Quinn tip. But I can't guess people I've never heard of, so there we go on that. All right, well, that will do it. Next week, Doll will be up against 2 new competitors, and we'll see what happens then. So join me, won't you, for another Masked Singer recap and reaction video next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.